All right, Bulls and Bears, back with another dose BX4 news, bull to the bust. Let's go ahead and get right into it, folks. The cost of living, inflation. People are still wondering how this can continue to go on. How can people continue to afford the median price home over $400,000 right now? And this cost of living in general, we see debt increases. But we were told back in December that debt somehow decreased. U.S. consumer debt decreased. So the news stories that came out were, well, a lot of people paid down their debt. Where did people find all this new money at? When we dug into it, was it one or two reports ago, we found out that it was because of a couple things. Bank write-offs, and banks and businesses in general typically like to do write-offs before the end of the year for tax filing season. We saw the write-offs, and we saw debt forgiveness was able to get some people out of certain types of debt, mainly student loan debt. That freed up a little bit of cash for some people to pay down their credit cards. So it was a combination of those two things. And also a couple reports before that one, we talked about how bankruptcies took a pretty big uptick in the fourth quarter. And that's another thing that made some debt disappear. When you file bankruptcy, the debt goes away. But of course, it was spun into a positive story. The headlines basically said, look how good everyone's doing. People have extra money now. They're paying down their credit cards. But of course, when we looked into it, that was pretty much proved incorrect, right? So we try to do that here. We try to get into not just the headlines, but in between the headlines, or what's the word? Read between the lines, so to speak here. Let's talk about tariffs here. Coming up, we've got unprecedented changes coming up here in just a few days with the new administration. Heads are going to roll, and I think we're going to see massive fireworks pop off in 2025. 2024 was wild enough with the corporate bankruptcies and store closings setting highs. The most corporate bankruptcies in many years, talking about health crisis type of numbers last year as far as these corporate bankruptcies. But Canada sends a warning message about the tariffs with retaliatory talk. Canada is sending a message alongside the Prime Minister, who threatened the levies as unnecessary, basically tariffs. The outgoing leader said Canada would respond purposely, forcefully, and resolutely if the current administration or the incoming administration implemented tariffs. So it's going to be interesting how many enemies we make with these tariffs and what we are trading with these different countries, different trading partners. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when we're dependent or reliant on those items? And what if they say, okay, we just won't sell to the U.S.? The United States, we don't manufacture much at all. I mean, when you look at the big picture, yes, there are still manufacturing jobs in the U.S., but when you look at the amount of things we import versus what we make here in the U.S., I think a lot of you would be very surprised how much we actually import. So if these countries decide not to play ball, so to speak, and we don't get these goods from these other countries, we're going to be in big trouble, and prices are going to spike for a lot of things. Just walk through Walmart, look at the made in reading on there, or label, and most of the time you're going to see made in China. So we're going to see how this plays out here, but we've got Canada out there with retaliatory talks on the tariffs. And you have to wonder how many other countries are also going to have a similar reaction like Canada has. All right, moving on here. International Business Times. The incoming administration's Treasury Secretary says there's going to be economic calamity. Economic calamity if tax cuts are not extended. We talked about that one or two reports ago, where corporate tax cuts were seen as a great thing, how companies are going to take that extra money that they saved in taxes and pass it down to the workers, and wages were going to rise dramatically. But what do we see? We saw record stock buybacks. So companies not giving out pay raises like they really could have. It could have made wages a lot higher, but we saw record stock buybacks, right? What else do we see? We saw record CEO pay. We saw the bonuses go up at these companies. So it didn't really do exactly what they thought they were going to do. You can argue it helped some. You could argue that the wages didn't go up, or you could argue that the wages went up more than they would have without the tax cuts. But then again, you can't really prove that right? It's very difficult to prove that, but we know just by looking at those things that I mentioned that it kind of backfired and really didn't help people as much as they thought. Now, just to pause real quick on the news, I had a couple people in comments on this channel ask me, why don't I ever talk about ways to benefit from this? In other words, how to invest with all the information that we look at. How do we invest and profit from this? How do we make money? I've told you many times, my position right now is cautionary. I'm down. I'm very low right now as far as what I'm invested in. I still have stocks. I still have many different investments, but I'm very low right now compared to what I usually hold. Right? And for those of you that may have missed the videos where I've said this, I'll have to say it again. Some of you are saying, why is he saying this again? Because I have to, because not everybody watches every video. So I kind of got to go back and repeat myself, because if everybody watched every video, I would never have to say the same thing twice. But we have people out there saying that I'm not helping people invest, when I just had an investment go up 600%, folks. And for those of you that have been on this channel and watched most of my reports, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It went from like 37 cents to over like $2.50. So it was crazy. And that's going to be a big tax bill this year. If I sell now. Actually, I didn't sell. So I did sell a little bit, but it's not going to be that much in taxes. That's for another episode. But folks, the reason I'm not talking about investing right now is because I'm not putting my money in any new investments. I'm taking a cautionary approach. We've got a new administration taking over here in just a few days, talking about implementing never before seen types of policies, right? We've never seen the talk of getting rid of tens of millions of people. We've never seen the talk of all the different things that are going to be implemented. These tariffs, that's another thing. To me out there's just too much uncertainty, too much risk, and too much never seen befores that are about ready to be implemented. So I'm taking a laid back approach on this one, a hands off approach. Sit back and wait for this thing to unfold, because I think we're going to see some real, like I said, fireworks. And you thought 2024 was wild. The beginning of 2025 has already been wild enough with what we've already seen, but I think it's going to get even wilder. So once we get back on maybe solid footing, and it's going to be hard for these levels of debt to be considered solid footing, in my opinion. To me, we need some sort of big correction before I really go heavy into the investments as far as like real estate goes, more heavily into the stock market. We're going to need to see a big sell-off, at least 50% in real estate before I'd feel comfortable coming in, buying an investment property, things like that. And those types of things come with a lot of work too, with the real estate investing side of it. For example, if you buy a property, you're probably not going to be able to sit here and make videos every day with all the different work and upgrades and then getting it ready to rent out, all that stuff. So I probably wouldn't even be able to do this channel if I was to go back in real estate, reinvesting in real estate like I did back in 2009 and 10. But I'll let you know. I mean, maybe things will change and I'll have more time to do that type of thing if we see a big correction. But then again, if we see a big correction, all of our lives could drastically change. You run a business today, will you have customers coming to your business if there is some sort of correction, or if a derivative exchange doesn't go as planned and it brings the entire banking system down? Folks, everything is so leveraged right now. It only takes a minor prick to pop this bubble. And of course, they're being very careful now not to pop the bubble. They're keeping things propped up, debt forgiveness, a lot of different things, home down payment assistance programs, because if the real estate market implodes, then prices come down and then you really see economic fallout once that happens. So they're being very careful about propping this thing up. Most of you know this, right? I shouldn't even have to explain it because I've explained it here many, many times. All right, let's move on, folks. Take a look at this. American shoppers wrap up the year in a spending mood, boding well for the U.S. economy. So the U.S. economy was solid because of all the spending at the end of the year. But we were told people paid down their credit cards, right? So which is it? They spent a lot or they paid down their credit cards? Well, debt did go down because of the things we mentioned earlier. But people went into a lot of debt because everything is more expensive. The holiday spending, for the same amount of goods and items, you spent more. Because why? Inflation, even though the rate of inflation has slowed from previous levels, prices are still up year over year. Prices are still rising. And it's amazing how many people don't understand that. When you see articles like this telling us how great everybody's doing because of the spending, you have to just look at the debt. Then you know how it actually was able to happen. A housing crisis in Las Vegas. Casino workers say they struggle. They're working multiple jobs. Out of Fox Vegas here, multiple jobs. Casino workers working multiple jobs. Well, working at a casino, I've never really thought of that as a career, but some people make a career out of it. Many casino workers on or close to the Las Vegas Strip tell the news outlet that they don't live anywhere near the Strip. And that's in spite of bringing in multiple paychecks. Quote, everybody right now is working. I mean, he says everybody. I don't think it's everybody, but he says everybody right now is working 3 jobs just to maintain an apartment and not even owning any property. Isn't that really kind of sad when you think about it? People working multiple jobs just to pay rent and the other bills, not owning anything. It's almost like someone doesn't want us to own anything. Quote, the price has changed a lot drastically. It used to be cheap. Talking about Las Vegas. Yeah, Las Vegas used to be cheap. I know people that moved from California to Las Vegas, and now Las Vegas is costing right now, the cost of living there and housing is what California was just 4 or 5 years ago. Quote, we knew too many Nevadians are seriously questioning if they'll ever have a chance to own a home. Everyone has been affected by this crisis. No one is untouched. Whether you're renting, saving for your first home, or starting over, you know this. We see you, we hear you, and we're in this together. That's what the governor came out and said, as if the governor is really going to do something to bring down the price of housing. They're not going to do anything. They may grandstand on building affordable housing and talk about that, but they're not going to bring the home prices down, folks. This is all based on the banking system and the money that's just created in endless amounts, or you could say it's borrowed at endless amounts. And once you go back to the source of the money, you know that this can be propped up for a very, very long time. Let's jump over to LA here, Los Angeles. Moratoriums now being re-implemented. So no evictions, no rent increases because of the wildfires, right? So I told you moratoriums are coming back, and now they're in LA. And it's just a matter of time before they're, I think, implemented nationwide, because there's going to be a crisis that brings the economy to its knees, so to speak. Interesting topic here. FDIC sues 17 former Silicon Valley Bank executives and directors over the collapse. Now, Silicon Valley, that was 2023. So going on 2 years later, they're finally suing some of these bankers who basically, I think, got a golden parachute from this year. A lot of them went on to get better paying jobs, even though their bank failed. Name one other industry where you could fail miserably and go on to make even more money, right? You could say sports, you're playing for a losing team and then you get traded to a better team. But folks, you and I, at the type of jobs the middle class has to work, or the working class, we do bad at our jobs. We're probably going to lose our job, and it may not be easy to get a better job. But these people, these bankers, even though the bank fails, Silicon Valley Bank, a lot of them went and got better jobs. There was even one person in particular that went on to become the head of a central bank somewhere over in Europe. I'd have to go back. That was a couple years ago we talked about that. But pretty interesting. The FDIC is suing these executives from this bank. We'll see how that plays out. All right, still on the topic of LA, the wildfires, the people that lost their homes. There's talk and speculation of this being what's called a land grab, where big companies come in to buy up these properties because they know that the people that lost their homes are going to be desperate, especially the people that didn't get an insurance payout. And even if they did get an insurance payout, that could take months and months and months, and they could be dragged out for a very long time. So they're going to prey or pounce on desperate people that need money now and offer them a super low offer on their land, which is in LA, in some cases near the coast, that's some cases worth millions of dollars. They're going to come in and lowball them. My answer to that would be, of course. That's what businesses do. They come in, they're going to offer you as little as possible for what you have. Look at a car dealer. Take your car into a car dealer. Are they going to offer you the most or top dollar? Or are they going to offer you as little as possible so they can make a bigger profit? I mean, it's a no-brainer. So, of course, there's going to be companies coming in, bidders coming in, investors coming in, trying to pay as little as possible for this land. And yes, they'll take advantage of you. if you're desperate. Just like the car dealer, your car's not running good, you take it in there, it's got an oil leak, and they're going to offer you as little as possible for your car because they know you're desperate to buy a newer car. Right? Now, if you go in there and you don't act desperate, that should work in your benefit, but that's a whole nother topic there when it comes to looking for vehicles and negotiating. Let's move on here to some investing information here, folks. We talk about investing all the time. You just have to stay tuned in here. Make sure you subscribe, notifications on. UBS rather, is saying silver to outperform in 2025, noting how much silver China has been stocking up on. And a lot of this news just focused on gold. Well, folks, it is silver. And I think you're going to be very shocked at the price of silver. We already seen it double since I first started talking about it a few years ago. Doubling, pretty good over the, it's been 5 years, 6 years now since silver rather was down in the $14 to $15 range. I'd have to look, but it's double since I've been talking about it here in this channel. So not bad. I'd like things to double each year. I'd like a 50% gain each year on investments, but if you have to wait a few years and still see something double, that's not bad. But be on the lookout in 2025, folks. Silver, as far as investing, still stacking silver. Haven't slowed down that. That's kind of a long-term, just kind of a stacking type of thing. So that's what I mean by stack. Also, get prepared, folks, because the black swans are out there. New administration, risks are elevated. I'd give it a 9.7 out of 10 right now as far as the risks. And just be cautious and think about where you're putting your money and be careful, everybody. We're going to wrap this up. What do you think about today's news? What do you think about the information coming out of Los Angeles with the potential land grab? It's obvious. It's a no-brainer. What do you think about the what else do we talk about here? The tariff threats. Is there going to be more retaliation with other countries? And is the U.S. going to pay the price? I think it's possible, folks. And we're going to see how it plays out here. We don't have much longer now. And we're going to stay on top of it for you. Please make sure you come back. As always, keep stacking. Big love. Bye for now.